those students are going to be seated for those courses.
Over students who are zoned for the school?
So priority enrollment are those choice program students because those students have been seated and those students are going to be scheduled first.
Okay, but do we determine the number of available seats after we register zone students who have expressed interest in those classes? In other words, like all of my kids went through choice programs. I'm thinking back, but some applied, and I understand if a child is zoned for the school in 11th grade and says, or in, I guess you have to start in 9th grade for some programs. So if you're zoned for the school as an 8th grader and you register for the school for 9th grade and you say, I want to be in this choice program, you are going to be slotted for that choice program. Are you slotted at the same time the choice applicants are vetted and picked? Or
So I think it differs across schools for a number of reasons, as we shared, particularly around the number of teachers for a particular pathway or course. It's contingent upon that. I think in that scenario, you will have students in the choice program who are going to get their schedules first. That student who is in the 9th grade may not be able to take that course that first year. They may have to take that course second semester or the second year first semester, right? So it may not happen that first year, but those students may be able to take that course or begin that pathway during a different semester.
But then they don't have the same experience as someone who signed up for the choice program because they have to give up other classes it happened because I can identify students where that's happened. So what I'm really hearing is if you want to participate in a district choice program that is not a dedicated choice school, you really should apply for the choice program even if you're zoned for that school.
Yeah.
Which is, yes.
Which is exactly where my question started.
Okay, because before it said no.
No, we've asked them to apply, but if they don't and they want to enroll in the classes, we enroll the kids.
You
in the
enroll,
classes.
but my question is, do they have priority, or is it if there are seats left after we populate those classes?
If there are seats left, because we can do, they can take other classes in place of that, but they'll complete their pathway.
Okay, I've had 3 kids go through choice programs, and I'm just saying we need clarity because I get this question every year, and we have this conversation every year.
Ms. Campbell, and then Dr. Hoskins-Brown.
So to clarify what Mr. Cashmore was saying, when we see on the chart right before, on slide 9, when we see total applications and total eligible, are the people at schools that are zoned schools but that have choice programs, when they are, you're saying that they still have to demonstrate eligibility to be in the choice program, or that they are automatically enrolled, or is it specific on the school?
When we look at the choice, the programs that are considered a choice program, for example, the engineering program, when those students that apply to attend Jenkins High School, they're taking academic classes, but they're also taking their pathway classes. Under their pathway, they can choose between 3 different pathways. So when those students enroll in those classes that they have to take, there are holes left in that, seats left in those classes. And students that's in the school that attend because they're zoned there, those students are enrolled in those classes. They may not be there the same time all of the choice, be in those classes the same time all of the choice students. It is based on their schedule because they have other classes that they may take. They may be taking AP classes, they may be doing dual enrollment. It just really depends on their schedules. And because the high school schedules are so they differ in what the students take and when they can take it. Because a lot of kids come in with academic classes from the middle school. So there are classes that they don't have to take, so they'll move forward. So it's really just working with the schedules and working with the counselors.
I think I understand better. And so the next question will kind of feed off of that one. What kind of success metrics are we measuring in these programs, like, say, aviation or the STEAM program, engineering program at Jenkins? I'm thinking more like along the IB lines. Like, is there some sort of certificate at the end that you receive if you complete all of it? And are we measuring that with the kids that are demonstrating eligibility versus the ones that just enter because they're at that school, where then we could justify maybe doing it a little differently to give more kids the opportunity to succeed in the program versus just be zoned for the program?
Okay, when the students complete the program, they take what is called the end of pathway assessment. The end of pathway assessment is a certification exam that all students take that are enrolled in a pathway, and those students receive that certification at the end of the completion of that pathway. So we don't separate from the students that actually apply to the students that are just enrolled in the school. It's just based on the number of students that take and pass the end of pathway assessment every year. And Chatham has exceeded, as a district, the district baseline.
Okay, thank you.
But it is a data point that we could take a look at.
Yeah, we can pull the students that enrolled in the program as opposed to the students. We could pull that because we have their names.
Yeah, mostly, I guess specifically because if we do have a situation like Mr. Kashmar was referencing where there are kids that are just going because they're zoned for the school and they're taking opportunities away from kids who are zoned for a school. Like, speaking of West Chatham, we don't have a choice program yet in West Chatham. So kids from my district who may want to do a pathway at another school, I wouldn't want them to then not be prioritized if they've worked very hard to meet qualifications, if that makes sense. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Constance Brown, then Mr. Smith.
Thank you. So this conversation is reminding me of how we've talked about this in the past, and I think that there are some distinctions to be made about how we operate. So I don't think that the scenario that you just described, Ms. Campbell, would happen, because if choice so we had a conversation some years ago about leaving choice experiences on the table at neighborhood schools when you had spaces but didn't have that number of applications. And Jenkins was one of them, because there were some ideas about there being this school within a school, and some kids at Jenkins not being part of the engineering program, not having the opportunity. And if I have this wrong, somebody correct me, I'm okay with that. So in the case that you have choice application process, then those students are prioritized in the application process. If the seats are not filled, they're made available to the schools who are attending that school, which is why you would be looking at children who are in the second course of a 3-course series being in the pipeline. They got in the pipeline because there was room in the pipeline, because all of the applications did not take all of the seats. So there shouldn't be that case that you described, because you're only being allowed to take the class as a non-pipeline student if all of the seats have not been filled. And there was a time that we didn't do that. You applied for choice. If you didn't apply, you didn't have the opportunity, and it was wasteful. So we changed how we moved around. But here's the other thing I just thought of. When you ask this kind of question, one perspective to ask from is, how can I be most competitive to get my child in a choice program? And so it would appear to be undermining if there was local neighborhood school preference for a choice application, but that's not what I'm hearing. The gold standard is you apply for the program. Well, if you apply for the program, the one that is your first choice, if you don't get that first choice, you go to your second, right? Well, what if I didn't want my second? One workaround is if I won't say, well, if you didn't get your first choice, that means it was full. But another workaround of this that I'm hearing through this conversation is, well, what if I just ask for an administrative placement at a school where the choice program is not full? Because then my child can backdoor into that program if it's not full. So maybe I didn't want the second choice, but I'll take the third choice because it's not full, and I'll just drive my child to that program. So I'm not advocating for any of this. It is a very complicated constellation, but I think we were listening to hear for is, how are we filling these programs? How is the application being reviewed? And I think that there's no bias against kids who apply. If you apply, you get the first consideration. If it's not full, then the local children at that neighborhood school have consideration. But it also seems like there's an administrative placement loophole too. Because if you're at the school and it's not full, why not do that? I hope that we will continue I applaud the team on creating opportunities for children at neighborhood schools to get into these programs. I think that was really, really efficient and an effective use of resources. I hope that we will also find ways to recruit for the programs and to work through some of the things that are working against us. Thank you.
Thank you tremendously for your presentation thus far. I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask, several questions, but I'm only going to narrow it down to two. One of the two questions being this, and I'm shifting gears just a bit. Have we explored additional choice programs such as career paths for AI or cybersecurity and things of that nature?
Cybersecurity is at Groves. We did have it at Savannah High School. Cybersecurity and AI has always been explored because that's where we are right now.
Right.
However, one of the challenges that we've had with both of those pathway is the end of the pathway assessment testing. We have to work with Savannah Tech in order to get our kids tested because of the security pieces that we have here with the school district. And it's a long process. Those tests are very expensive. And so we will pay for the kids to take the exam. However, we have to work around Savannah Tech's schedule when they can fit us in.
Gotcha.
So that we're still working with that, so that has been a challenge. We're in the process of working with some virtual reality information at Johnson High School, Savannah High, and Hubert that we have to get through some legalities with the contract in order to offer those programs, and that's what we're trying to do. Hopefully, we can have it done by Friday.
By Friday, okay. Awesome. Last question for you. What supports can be implemented to help students who narrowly miss eligibility or acceptance into the program? Are there any things that we are doing to help along in that regard?
Well, students is never an absolute no with the students and the process that we do. If the students do not meet the criteria at the very beginning of the lottery process, we look at test scores and grades at the end of the school year, and those students are placed on the wait list.
Okay.
If the wait list is low and there's always movement on the wait list, especially at the end of the school year with transitioning in and out, and we contact parents to let them know that their child received a seat and go through the registration process.
Would you say that it's a common thing that students have been on the wait list every year but have never been actually accepted into the program?
The longest I can recall is somebody who applied 4 years in a row and was waitlisted and got in the 5th time they applied. That's the longest I can personally recall.
Got in the 5th time.
But one thing I do want to bring up is about the after lottery process. If we have most of the time, almost all the time, if a student doesn't meet a particular criteria as a test score. And so what we do is when I speak to a parent whose student did not have a required test score, using the middle of the year administration, what I encourage that parent to do is to apply as soon as after lottery opens, and then I hold their application in queue until I get end of the year test scores and I re-review. so that if they didn't quite have that score middle of the year and didn't have a successful appeal, they still have an opportunity.
Gotcha. Let me ask this last question, I promise. Last question. What are we doing to inform parents on how the process works, or the application process? Are we constantly meeting with them? Are we offering settings and moments where they can come in and learn about the process? Because a lot of parents don't know what's offered or how to apply for it. What do we do in that regard?
So we have two opportunities for parents to learn more about particular choice programs. The first is the Expo, which is amazing because it's a one-stop shop, so they can investigate lots of programs at one time. And then every single choice program has an open house night while the application window is open. So all 26 programs will have an open house sometime between January 10th and January 25th. And our communications department does a great job of broadcasting that information and making sure that parents know that those opportunities will be on the website so that they can plan to attend all of the open houses in the Expo.
And we have also had opportunities for parents to come into our office.
Okay.
And we would help them fill out the application.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Ms. Hall.
Oh, okay. All right. Very quickly, I just want to bring some sunshine into this whole choice program that we're doing. Ms. Grabowski and I were at Johnson High on Monday. We invited there to watch them submit their college applications. And all the IB students were there in the media center. And I was talking to this one young man who comes from Pooler, drives from Pooler every day to Johnson for the IB program. And I just want you all to hear what the title of his essay, they have to all do an extended essay. This was his topic. An exploration of how the increasing presence of light pollution has affected nocturnal pollinating Lepidoptera in various ecosystems. And here would come another girl who's talking about Native Americans being kidnapped into Canada to strip them of their culture in the 1800s. We have some brilliant children doing brilliant things, and we as board members have to be reminded of that so we don't get discouraged because we're so often bogged down with all of the different problems that a small amount of our kids are involved in. So thank you, Dr. Lewis, and thank you. I didn't hear your name.
Jessica Horton.
Okay, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Dr. Bringman.
Fully support everything you do. Great segue into the expo because we hadn't gotten to that slide, so we could probably just pop that slide up now. Great discussion all around the process because it is difficult to navigate. But we've got the expo every year. So yes, they have each year to go to the expo before they apply. So they might only be going their 8th grade year before 9th grade, but they had, if they were here in our district, K through 8 to go to that expo. So please, everybody, come to the expo. We don't know where it's at yet, but come to the expo. What I would like to ask, and you do not have to answer now, is that we reach out to those applicants that aren't placed and remind them of some of these programs that have a ton of seats. It's selling all the time, and I know it's a lot of work for y'all to keep trying to market, and we do. We market it. What Dr. Hotzins-Ryan was talking about has been going on since I went to Beach High for a choice program, and that's, I ain't sending my kid there.
Well, actually,
I ain't gonna do it.
We do.
Yeah, I know.
And matter of fact, especially with early college, and the principal there has been very supportive in that process where once we send out an email to the parents, she will actually call and let parents know that they're welcome to come and do a walkthrough.
Good.
And see what's going on. So that's just one example, but we definitely let parents know that there are other options that they could.
Yeah, if we keep hitting them with the options, maybe they'll change their mind and their perception going, okay, so I didn't get what I wanted.
Yeah, and we've actually filled quite a large
Good.
number of choice seats that way. At the end of the year, when it's looking like that enrollment's kind of settled, not a whole lot of waitlist movement happening, we will send out an email to everybody who's waitlisted for a high school, for example, and say, hey, just so you know, these schools have additional space. And then it's an easy after lottery application, and I can seat them and register them within 24 hours.
I would love that to be in future reports. That would be a happy number.
Yep.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Good morning. Just a quick question that many people may not have thought about. What if a child, say for example, is at Garrison Kindergarten, he got accepted in, or she was accepted into the program, and they need to be retained in kindergarten or first grade? Do they lose their seat, or do they continue on until it's time for the middle school grade span to apply again, to reapply for choice?
I will defer to Mr. Butler on that. I believe that is a decision they make at the school level based on the student's particular situation, if I'm correct.
No, I think Ms. Horton captured sort of the general response to that. If a student is retained or is being considered, that's a school-based team decision on whether that student continues in the program.
And we will ask for, this principal what safety nets were put in place to assist that student. So they're not immediately just say you're banished from the school. And then they also have the opportunity to reapply the next year. If the principal say, well, we'll keep the child, then the child will stay there. If they said, if it's a no, then that child has the opportunity to reapply the next school year.
So, and at the kindergartner stage, they would have a kindergarten seat, and that would open a first grade seat, essentially is how that would work. And that's actually an excellent question for the student support framework, if you guys are ready.
Yeah,
No, I was gonna say, if they want to finish the presentation, I'm happy to hold my
well,
questions.
I've got a couple of questions. Could you go back to the slide with the requirements? I want to make sure I saw what I think I saw. Okay, no.
The rubric.
Rubric for acceptance. Yes, okay. So, the minimum GPA is 75. What is a 75 grade-wise?
See?
Okay. That's surprising. Okay, the other question is, if someone moves here mid-year and they want to get their child into a choice program, is that possible?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if they're coming from a district that doesn't do MAP, what would they use?
They would use any standardized test that has national norm results, and they would be required to meet either the 4th Stanine or the 40th percentile.
Okay. And third, not that I'm saying that parents will do this, if a child, say, applies to Jenkins for the engineering program, they don't get in. However, is the workaround just enroll your kid at Jenkins and they can take the same courses?
Yep. If Jenkins is your neighborhood school, then
Yeah.
your student's going to be enrolled there anyway, and they can take those classes.
Or as Dr. Hoskins Brown said, do academic.
Or
Administrative
they could,
placement.
Administrative
yes, receive administrative placement.
Okay. One more thing. Could we work more with organizations that work with kids to get them prepared? For instance, there's an audition for Garrison and there's an audition for Savannah Arts. could we do a better job of getting in touch with organizations that can teach kids, because not all kids get private lessons, okay? But you don't have to have private lessons to get into those schools. There's some basic knowledge that you have to have. So if we can do a better job of working with organizations to provide that for our kids, you know, well, actually, I know at Garrison, at one time, they actually were doing audition workshops for kids. But we've got to let the public know, if your kids didn't have private lessons, here are the dates we're going to have audition prep, and we're going to prepare your kids for the audition. So, so that's just a suggestion.
Great suggestion.
Right. Okay. Yes, Dr. Howard Hall.
And Mr. Moss, back to the GPA average of 75, if a person can sing like Mahalia Jackson or Aretha Franklin or Whitney Houston, it's okay to have a 75 GPA because you're gifted and talented in your auditioning. So I think that's probably why there's a 75 there, so it can be fair to allow other children the opportunity to enroll in these choice programs.
So that's, yes, I agree with that. And this is a bigger discussion that we can have another time. Both of those schools, in addition to being performing arts schools, are more academic schools. We really do not have a truly performing arts school here.
I'm ready for that conversation.
Okay? Because if you look at Davidson, at Douglas Anderson, you're not going to see the same requirements. It's based more on the audition, which provides those opportunities. So that's just another discussion that we can have another time about, you know, if we're going to have a purely performing arts school, let's do that. But right now, we have very highly academic, which I'm for, by the way, academic schools that you just happen to have some artistic talent, or you've been coached really well. And thank you for that, because it helps my income. But anyway, but yeah, I would like to have that conversation sometime. And David, I'm open to that. Okay, Ms. Grabowski.
Thank you. I was going to just say finish, but I feel like if I don't talk, I might not get a chance. Thank you for the presentation. A couple clarifications. While you're on this slide, so if any of the numbers for student B are red, then they do not meet the criteria, correct?
They could, but there's the rubric that calculates, you know, it's weighted.
Okay, that was good. So it is weighted, so we
Yes.
don't see those weights reflected here.
Correct.
So
Correct.
if we could get a little bit more information about how that rubric has been modified and how it's being utilized, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
When we adopted the rubric initially, we said we were going to revisit it, which I see that you've done. And I think one of the things that we said we were going to do in that revisiting, I think gets to Mr. Moss's point about whether or not we needed to have specific rubric for specific schools because of their academically accelerated programs. Is that something that we are exploring?
I'm not sure. I know we actually did have that in the past. There were different criteria for different schools. And then there was kind of a shift to standardize the criteria across the board. So, you know, that's definitely something we've done in the past. And I'm not aware of any conversations around that, but.
Yeah, so thank you for that question. To Ms. Horton's point, as you may recall, there was a time where each of our schools had differing criteria. This was a shift that was made maybe about 3 or 4 years ago to standardize that across all of our schools. As we engage in conversations with our upcoming strategic plan, and as we sort of reimagine and how we modernize choice programs, this will be part of our conversations to include some other things that will happen more immediately, specifically as it relates to the supports that we provide to our students in our programs to ensure that they are successful. But yes, so thank you for that question. We will continue to have some of those conversations as we reconvene our choice program committee that included our school leaders who helped build out the rubric here as well. So we'll bring them back as we begin to think about what the next iteration looks like.
Okay, thank you for that. So there kind of two things. I want to talk about what we do now and where we're going. So first, on what we do now, if you can go to the slide that has the numbers for Jenkins again, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but I think it's important to understand for our community, we had 471 applications, 275 they're eligible, so that's really the number, so 275, but we have 85 seats. So this gets back to Mr. Kachmar's point earlier, in my earlier question, if we only have 85 seats, then those are being all filled by choice program applicants, I would assume, and there's no room left for those that are there at a neighborhood school. I mean, it just, and I don't expect you to go back through that again, but the way in which this is communicated is not clear. And the opportunities, I think, for those students to be able, like, are you in the program, are you aren't? Like, it's very unclear. Maybe that's something that happens more at the school level, but because I've gotten calls about it, I'm not sure that it is. So I would just really elevate that we are able to provide some more clarity to the families that are within a school zone, but who also want to be in the choice program. Because even in all of this discussion, I still don't think it's clear. So I would just put that out there. To Mr. Moss's point about working with the organizations, I agree. I will, give a shout out to our organizations, Savannah Music Festival and Savannah Philharmonic, that both do a great job. I mean, the Jazz Academy is exactly that. That is exactly what they are working to do, is to provide those opportunities to the students who may not otherwise receive them so that they can be successful. So I just want to give a shout out to our organizations that are doing that. And then going back to our kind of current practice, if you can go to the slide that mentioned the wait list. So this is something that every single year since I've been on the board that I ask about, and I will continue to ask about it. Because, no, not this one, the one, I think it was after this one, maybe. No, or before, I don't know. It's in there. Is it earlier? This one, right here. So, I hear you about the timing. I don't accept that. We can do this. We can have a process, other districts have a process where a parent does not have to go back in after the fact and ask to be added back onto a wait list after they've already gone through this whole process, especially when on our website, it is in bold. Once a seat becomes available for a student at any of their selected choice schools, that student is automatically removed from all of the wait lists. Nowhere on our website does it say, but parents, you can call in or you can know the behind-the-scenes way to get back on the wait list. This is extremely frustrating for me because we say that you can do this, but we don't. We don't communicate it, and it shouldn't be this complicated of a process. Families, if we're going to have a choice program, we should make it truly choice, because right now, parents don't put down more than one school even if they have several schools that they are interested in, they will only put down one because they know if they get number 3, that they don't even have the chance at 1 or 2. And we can do this. Other districts have been doing this for years. So I really implore us, maybe it's through the strategic planning process. I don't know what process it is, but we can do it. And then the final comment I'll make is, and I think it was Mr. Smith that brought up the cybersecurity and AI. I continue to be excited about the new framework that we were presented, whenever that was, 6 or 8 months ago. I don't know where the state is on how that's going to roll down to the district, but I hope that they will be at a point that when we go through the strategic planning process, we can look at how we are transitioning to that new framework. And then the final comment I will make is, Mr. Butler, you'll remember in our conversations about topics for academic excellence, we have talked about choice programs as one of our focused meetings. I feel like every year we talk about choice programs, it's this time of year when we are right on the cusp of the application process and it's too late to do anything. So I would love for us to have this conversation in the spring where we can really have it in a more open way in which we can make some adjustments if we feel the need to do so. So thank you for allowing me my soapbox, and
Thank you for that, Ms. Grabowski, and duly noted on your request. And certainly the informal space here gave us an opportunity just to provide some updates and reminders, but certainly would love to leverage the Academic Excellence Committee time for some more ideation. So thank you for that.
Yes. Oh, did you have? Oh, okay, all right. Oh, okay, Ms. Hall, Ms.
I
Hall.
tried to text Ms. Davidson, and it's freezing up here.
Thank you. All right, you may continue, I'm sorry.
Okay, so now that we understand how students are in choice programs, now we're going to talk about the student support framework once they're enrolled. So participation in choice programs comes with layered supports. So we have a process for getting students into choice programs, but one thing that especially our principals have asked for is a consistent process for providing support to those choice program students. So our committee that worked on the rubric will be reconvening to develop a comprehensive framework for students enrolled by choice programs. There are two key principles that they're guided by: ensuring consistency across all schools, so that if you're at Woodville, the supports you receive are the same at Islands or the same at Groves. And then prioritizing continued enrollment decisions that considers the best interest of each student's academic success. A transition review may begin when the student fails to meet support plan goals, the student or family repeatedly declines to engage with supports, or the support team decides that choice placement is no longer serving the student's best interest. And the details of that, of course, will be worked out amongst that committee, and we'll have more information forthcoming.
And finally, the Student Success Expo is scheduled for January the 26th, and the location is, January 10th, 2026, and the location is still under review.
Any other questions for this?
It's not a question, it's just
Yes.
a quick shout out that many of our schools also, particularly earlier in the year, host their own open houses. So particularly for our students who are not maybe looking for a choice program next year, but maybe the year after, please check the individual school websites to see when they have and many of them are student-led tours, and that's really the best way, I think, to get a feel for the schools. So I'll just put that plug out to check the individual websites of each of the schools and encourage our schools that may not be doing that to consider doing that as part of the recruitment tool. Thanks.
I appreciate that, and I always try to encourage parents to think about, if you're thinking about applying to a choice program for 9th grade for your student, that process actually starts at the beginning of 7th grade for you. So it's always best to have that year lead time to look into programs.
So, going back to your the last slide. No, before that. Before that. The support one, yes. I would encourage, part of this support is a frank discussion with parents about what to expect. If you have applied to a program that you know is academically challenging, make sure that parents know that. Because the worst thing to happen for those students is to go into a program they're not prepared for. That is not fair to the student, it's not fair to the parents, it's not fair to the school. So, just a statement. Because sometimes parents want students at a school more than kids want to be at that school, so. All right. Hey, thank you very much.
All right, so good morning.
Good morning.
We are pleased today to bring you an update from Transportation. I'm going to turn it over to our very capable Executive Director of Transportation, Ms. Lynetta Mills.
Good morning.
Morning.
We are happy to share some updates with you. First is our key performance indicator, and that's the strategic priority, mouthful, objective D, enhance transportation and nutrition services to support student academic readiness. So we set our baseline at 68% last year, with a goal annually to achieve 2% more each year. At the end of our school year, we were able to achieve 77.4%. Moving on to this year, again, 2% more. So that took it last year to 70, this year to 72. So far, as of October 7th, we have been able to achieve 83% on-time delivery to schools. So that's a great improvement. If you remember from previous presentation, that's the early and on-time percentages that are added together to get that total percent. Questions on that piece?
Mr. Grabowski.
And early just means early to the school, not early to the stop, so that children aren't missing the bus. Just
No, it is early to school arrival.
Anyone else? All right, continue.
All right, the second one is we are going to propose, or we are proposing, a choice pilot for our students, which is an exciting endeavor for us to take. So we look at route prioritizations. Of course, we look first at as our first priority for students that have legal obligations. So we have legal obligations to transport. That's student with disabilities, 504, students McKinney-Vento, et cetera. That's our first priority. Second would be elementary and K-8 zones students. When I say zone, that's, outside of that walk zone. Third priority would be middle and high school. And then last, of course, has been our choice program. So we are trying to blast into our shuttle pilot program. So this would be strategic location at businesses that parents can meet the bus. Bus will come to those locations. The parents will meet the bus there. Children will load onto the buses. And I will explain how that's going to work in just a few minutes. So that increases access to our choice programs. The schools that we would like to pilot would be Charles Ellis and Garrison School for the Arts. So why did we choose those two schools? Number one, it crosses several grade bands, and these students are younger students, so options for CAT may not be something that they can do. So how would that be designed? So the bus would arrive at a particular location. I'll go into those locations in a few minutes. 10 minutes prior to their departure from that shuttle site. Parents would meet the buses there. Students would load the buses. Then the bus would depart for the schools. In the afternoon, it's just the opposite, basically. Parents go to those business locations. The bus pulls in. The students unload, get into the parents' cars, and the parents depart, and then the schools go on to their next school. The buses go on to their next schools. This is a map of where we're looking at the geographic locations for those shuttle sites to be. Included in this map is not only just the location, but it's the number of students for each school, and it's the approximate distance in miles to the school from that site. This is data as of October 3rd. These are the shuttle locations and times that we are proposing. So you see Food Lion, that's at Highway 30 and 21, Garden City Shopping Mall, Lowe's at Pooler Parkway, Planet Fitness, now that's the newer one that's by Southwest Middle School, Savannah Mall. Somebody asked a question earlier. Savannah Mall is the one that has Bass Pro Shop in it. Publix at Whitmarsh. McAlpin Square, which is basically adjacent to a Kroger that's on Victory or right off Victory. Memorial Stadium and Jenkins High School, and then Beach. As you see, all the student totals for each school, and then the buses that would be required for each site, as well as the arrival and departure times. So what are our phases to make this happen? November to February, of course, identify those locations, which we have done. Conduct parent surveys, which we have that ready to go out. That includes the location. We will coordinate with the, of course, transportation and campus police for safety and accessibility at those locations. We'll finalize our legal obligations, whether it's a memorandum of understanding, whether it's something a little more legal as far as being able to use those sites. We'll develop then a communication plan. Phase 2, simulation, route design, and awareness. So we'll run time simulations to be able to model what the traffic would be and parent pickup flow. We'll do testing to just test our route efficiencies. So be less than or equal to 20 minutes total shuttle time from the bus leaving that site to the school. We will develop contingency plans for the weather and any missed pickups. And then we'll execute the communication plan, and we'll do that on multiple platforms. Parent notifications, emails, the robocalls, flyers, texts, and web updates. Phase 3 will be staff, equipment, and training. It'll be May to June. We'll assign and train the staff that will be on the buses, and of course, campus police will assign the officers for each site. We'll conduct the practice runs to see how things really go in real time with the real traffic. And then we'll order signage or cones, the traffic type cones, to help parents know where to go on those sites and standardize those practices. Then we'll publish the maps, the timelines to the families through the schools and online. In phase 4, we'll launch and do some monitoring. As you recall, the pilot is for Ellis and Garrison. It entails 1,103 students, 20 buses. We'll maintain part-time communication through dispatch, real-time, not part-time, I'm sorry about that, through dispatch and through parent notifications, as we do now with other parents. We will make sure that we are reviewing our on-time performance. That safety and supervision incidents, we will measure those. We'll also do surveys to parents for satisfaction. Phase 5, evaluation and expansion. This is January through May. We'll look at our metrics. On-time arrival. we want greater than or equal to 83%, which is where we are right now. 0 safety incidents. Cost per student, less than or equal to $1,500 per student. Then we'll determine the continuation or expansion of the program to additional choice sites. We can explore more integration with CAT or other regional partners. Our timeline for the year then would be, parent surveys would be next. We're already in November, so there we're right at it. January, choice registration. March, finalize those property agreements, run the simulations. April, order the traffic safety cones, solidify the parent communication plan, and order the signage as well. July, finalize and publish the maps and timelines to the schools for the parents. And then in August, a few days before school starts, like we do with our regular runs, we'll do those practice runs and then, do any adjustments needed. So what's the cost? The cost for this program, if you look in that second column for both schools, is 1.5 million, a little bit more than $1.5 million for both schools. Cost per student, $1,326. Cost per bus, $78,918. And then you see the breakdown for Ellis. Ellis is a little less because they have less students. Garrison a little more because they do have more students. This is based on the October enrollment data. We want a partnership with the parents and the schools, of course. So parents have to be there to make sure that they're picking up their students on time. We will have a 3 strikes, you're out kind of rule. So parents, this is per semester. We're giving them up to 15 minutes. And if they are late 3 times, then we will discontinue their privilege of riding the shuttle. For behavior, if it's egregious or a continued pattern of poor behavior, then as the executive director, I will be making a recommendation to the COO for maybe revoking their privileges to ride the shuttle. Morning is extremely critical for parents to be on time so we can be on time for those kids. So our buses will be pulling out on time to make sure we're there. Questions?
Dr. Hoskins-Brown, Dr. Bringman, Ms. Grabowski, let's get it on. Ms. Campbell, Dr. Howard Hall, Mr. Smith. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Out of order.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions from a macro scale to a micro scale. So the first macro scale question is, how we had a shuttle on Wilmington Island that took students to TEMA, I believe, somewhere between 2014 and 2018. How have we used our experience or information from that previous work to improve what we're proposing now?
I did ask that question of the previous staff that was here at the time. I was not here at the time. But they said basically they put another bus into that shuttle because there was a problem with parents being upset with students riding with another school group of students. So once they put that in, they said it was successful. That was their opinion.
Thank you. Can you look a little deeper into the files on that?
Absolutely.
Because this is an investment, and I'm supportive of it, but I just hate that we reinvent things because we don't dig into a folder and read over some data. Because I know we did surveys with that. I know that we had, I know there were some concerns. The ones that I can remember is monitoring at the hub, who's making sure that that someone is at the hub representing the interests of the district to make sure everybody's okay. Late parent pickup, how long do you stay there before something needs to happen because a parent is not picked up? And I think you referred to the mixed age groups. So if we could look at what we did before to address that, because we did it for a while, so we must have addressed those things. I just don't know what we did.
Yeah, I'll be happy to look into that a little deeper.
Thank you. What was the basis of the $1,500, less than $1,500 costs per student? Why did we pick that number?
So right now, it's like $1,300 per student, so it's just looking at a threshold that we can make sure that we're staying under.
I understand, but why did we pick that number? Is that what we spend on other riders, or like, okay, thank you.
He already knows.
Are we like doing the like the Wonder Twins thing? Okay, all right.
That's about what we're paying now for our.
It is.
Okay, all right. So I was hoping that it was grounded in that. All right, cool. And then I know the priority is you did a great job of going over the priorities for routing. One of them is student with IEPs. So just to be clear, so if you're a young person with an IEP and you bump into this 3-strike rule, do you have to have a manifestation hearing before, or does the law, if you hit the 3-strike rule because of your behavior, do we have to have a manifestation hearing before we decide to withhold transportation, or are we not able to withhold transportation because they have IEP?
We'd have to go back to the school principal and work through the process to make sure that we're following the process. Manifestation hearing, maybe not, but school does the discipline, so we'll have to follow their guidelines.
Okay, but if it's a discipline hearing, then, I mean, if it's you can't take discipline, you can't impose a disciplinary consequence on a young person with an IEP if their behavior is a direct result of what is declared in their IEP.
Right.
So even if we send it back to the school, like legally, can we deny them transportation?
If I could interject here briefly.
Thank you.
So the manifestation determination review is driven by the 10-day rule of being out of school for the 10 days total for the year.
Okay.
So the access to transportation wouldn't directly line up with the 10-day rule that would trigger the need for the manifestation determination review. Not to say that it wouldn't be relevant for the team to review. It could be addressed in a BIP. It could be addressed through some other means, but that would not fall under an MDR necessarily. But you would want to be looking at that behavior and seeing where it's coming from. And it could raise larger concerns under Section 504 for accessibility, if you were discriminating on the basis of the disability and something you were denying access to. So it could have that overlap. So that's why you got to be kind of guarded with that answer, because it could fall into that sort of analysis.
Thank you. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Like if something is happening and before we just say, okay, well, that's happening, so you can't ride the bus, like we need to kind of figure out what's happening with that young person so that we can help them with it. In addition to protecting other pupils from the behavior, we want to do that, but I'm just wondering, what bell goes off besides your parents have to drive you to school for some period or indefinitely.
Yeah, and typically with students with disabilities on transportation, we're looking at interventions, so we work heavily with the schools with those interventions.
Thank you. I love that word, interventions. Thank you.
Dr. Brinkman.
Dr. Hassens-Brown hit all of my points, so thank you to her. Love that we've already got that baked in there on the afternoon pickup, because that was definitely going to be my squeeze point. The kid can just ride to the bus depot and the parents can pick him up from there and learn a trade. They can help change the oil on a bus. And then, yes, the cost, just so when people are reviewing this, when they, throw in some more data on that's why, thank you for handing out the budget, because I was like, let me find Fund 2700 and what we're actually spending per pupil right now, and this falls in line with that. It costs us about $750 a day per student to drive children, which, gets to be a lot really quickly. That number's large, and we do a lot of miles. So thank you for having all of that in here. And I think, let's pilot this. And CAT is pretty much running. My son's riding they're doing shuttle buses now because they can't run the 6 line for a darn. I don't know what they're doing down there. So if y'all don't leave the district, but they're running shuttle buses because they don't have enough drivers to run their big buses. So let's do it too.
Who was next? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you for this. I think this, this is a great kind of toe in the water. We've been talking about transportation for our choice programs for quite some time. So I'm very excited about this proposal. To the point about one of the questions I'd written down, what's our current cost? I think in the presentation, maybe even on board docs, if we could add that figure, it would be really helpful to give some additional context. Have we made contact with the proposed site property owners yet? Not yet. Okay, so that's still to be done. Okay. On your slide 8 that had the numbers that you anticipate, the number of buses for each site, does that anticipate 100% participation of the students in that zone?
It is,
Okay.
yes. We
So
did
if
it at
only-
the greatest.
If only
number.
50% participate, we would only need half as many buses. Okay.
Absolutely.
To Dr. Hoskins-Brown question earlier about those priority 1 students, would they still, those students are currently receiving bus service today?
Yes.
Would they continue to receive that bus service, or would they be expected to participate in this shuttle?
They could do either.
They could do either, okay. And then I had originally written down the monitoring at the hub, and then I started thinking about what happens at a bus stop if you have a little person and their parents aren't there? I mean, because this is really just a giant bus stop, right? I understand it's different because it's, a public setting and there's more kids, but at the end of the day, it's a big bus stop.
It's actually safer at one of these sites because the parents need to be there and the
Right.
drivers aren't going to leave them. We
Okay.
will make sure there is a bus there.
Okay.
What I call a holding bus.
And
Yes, a police officer, of course.
so we will also have a police officer at each of these
Absolutely.
sites. Okay, so then that does make it an even safer proposition.
Absolutely,
So-
because some of those parents in the morning, and I've worked in a district where we did these, they come in 2 wheels.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you need a police officer out there.
And will our student IDs have, I know we talked about going to the bar that had a lot of the information. Does that information contain who the authorized pickup person is for that student?
We are right now going through the RFP process. I do serve on that committee, and we're not there yet
I
with
thought we had
exactly
gotten-
what's going to happen.
Didn't I thought we approved something a year or 2, anyway, okay, I thought we had done that, but that's okay. Because if I were a parent participating in this, I would want a backup parent that, my car broke down, can you pick up my kid? So I think having that information readily available for our bus drivers is going to be helpful in making this a success. So, thank you so much.
And we do have the tablets as well that have some information.
Well, just some way that they can verify that that person is an authorized receiver of the child.
Campbell?
Thank you for this. This is very exciting, very well
We're
thought out.
excited, and I know our drivers and monitors, they're great, and our staff's great, so they'll make it happen.
I saw that the plan for the future would be to extend this into other choice programs, potentially all of them, correct? What about charter schools?
Would be great. I will defer to Dr. Watts and the COO.
I mean, this is a starting place. This is something that I've heard since I've transitioned here. I wanted to start small. Everything comes with a cost. So again, when you think about this conversation aligns with budgeting conversations. So as we think about doing this, we have to think about where the funding comes to expand it more broadly.
Okay.
We do want to remind the board that in 2019, the board approved a cost-sharing agreement for charter schools, and that was our way of providing transportation services to charter schools where the charters on the per-pupil basis would contribute to the cost of transportation. That was approved by board action. It never got launched because COVID came in. We had the impact with the driver shortage, and we didn't get that off the ground. And then the services of transportation came back to the focus on students at their neighborhood schools, door to door, and that's where we continue to operate. So if we get into a place where we have the staff capability and the workforce that we can expand services to charter schools, we would default back to that cost-sharing agreement that was previously adopted by the board.
Good to know, thank you. I'll look into that. And the other thing, just to circle back around to our original conversation, I think it was very wise to put these two together, even though they seemed at first to be a little bit more disjointed. When we talk about the registration and seated students at these choice schools, this is another reason I think it's really important that we make sure, as it seems like it is not an issue right now, but that we make sure that we are giving preference to eligibility, even if that means that they're coming from outside. But also because hopefully we would be able to offer busing to kids. When I see, for instance, right now, AB has, which I know that's not an eligibility, but registered 8, seated 8. That's only 8 kids that we would need to transport, at least in this class, that it almost doesn't make sense monetarily at that point, potentially. So having the numbers, right for us to look at this in the future, if we just decide to extend, would be wonderful. Thank you.
Dr. Howard Hall.
Yes, thank you. I think it was about 7 years ago, we had a similar proposal, but the location sites were all at schools. They were not at the businesses, so it's good to see that we have these business locations. However, we do have 2 schools. We have Jenkins High School and Beach. So my concern is going to be traffic management, because that was a major concern 7 years ago, because there'll probably be a lot of logistical issues during peak time of pickup and drop off for those particular schools. So how would this impact that traffic flow for Beach and Jenkins, because you have other, car riders, you have the bus riders all at the same time with the shuttles as well. So just want to make sure that that we are cognizant of the management of traffic during that peak time of pickup and drop off.
Absolutely.
Smith?
Thank you tremendously for your presentation thus far. I have 3 questions that I would like to ask there. 2, because Dr. Hoskins Brown already touched on one, as far as the students with disabilities being offered mandatory transportation back and forth. So I'm grateful for that clarification. I want to ask 2 questions, one being this. Have we heard from CAT? Do we know what load they've been receiving or carrying our kids on? Has it been heavy? Has it been low? Has it been?
It was actually a little lighter this year than last.
Okay.
So we're not paying as much out from our transportation budget to CAT this year.
Gotcha. Okay. Another question will be this. I know this is a far stretch. I'm just asking out of curiosity. During the pandemic, our buses took Wi-Fi towers to communities, correct? My question is, does our buses now, do they offer Wi-Fi on the bus for students that want to do work on the bus, on tablets? Again, that's a stretch, but I'm just asking.
I'm not sure. It's possible through our REI that is a possibility, but I'd have to really look into that.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
That's our blue sky thinking.
Blue sky thinking. Thank you.
I guess I have a look at my face.
Yes.
This question is regarding the bus monitors, and it's not really on this particular topic, but I did receive some calls from bus monitors about their pay not being paid during the fall break on that Friday and Monday. Now, I know that Monday was a holiday, and they were really upset about it. So how are we calculating fall breaks and spring breaks so that they can see the same pay throughout the year with the consistency, because they were upset about losing those 2 days?
They actually didn't lose the days. Those were just non-scheduled work days. So they do their pay basically like they do with teachers. They balance that throughout the year, and so it is amortized like throughout the year. So they really weren't out anything because it wasn't a scheduled day.
And can I add something? I think what commonly happens, particularly with the 5-hour drivers, is that would have normally been a day they could make 10 hours. So sometimes that's what they see. This would have been a 10-hour day. It's not that we don't have it. It's not that it's even. It's just I could have earned more traditionally on that day.
There's also a calendar that clearly shows which holidays bus drivers and bus monitors get paid for and which ones they do not get paid for. So there are holidays that they do get paid for, but this is not one of those designated days. And on that calendar, I don't know if that's what you're pulling up right now, on that calendar, it clearly shows that Columbus Day is a holiday, but not a paid holiday for that group of employees.
No, they actually, I think the monitors are paid for that day. Should be.
Well, I can't remember, but I
Yeah,
know I
it's-
looked at the calendar, and the calendar clearly shows which days they're paid for and which holidays they are not paid for. And there are holidays in which they do get paid, but this is just not one of those designated days.
Well, maybe how often do they meet so they can understand? Apparently, they didn't understand that, although it was clearly indicated on the calendar. Is there a time when they gather, do they meet once? I don't know.
Absolutely.
I
This has
just
been
don't, I hate for people not to understand what's going on with
been
their
an
pay.
ongoing issue in transportation that they say they don't understand. But I know payroll has come in, they've done a lot of presentations, including last year, giving them the entire breakdown. So
I think it's something that we commit to continue to clarify, because it can be confusing. And we
Right,
want
because to say
everybody
that they say they don't understand is condescending quite, in my
The
opinion.
calendar,
So
to
just-
me, is the clearest roadmap.
Right.
If you could see the calendar,
I'll send it
it's
to you.
really
I don't
clear.
have a log on it. It's employee self-service, and it would show my personal information on public television.
Right.
So I will send
And I
it
have
to
the
you.
calendar in my email, I'll send it to you.
I do want to add one point of clarification to the students with special needs in terms of transportation, just since this is a public meeting. This issue comes up quite a bit. So when an IE team meets, one of the things they're supposed to consider is whether transportation is required as a related service. So when it is required under the law, it is when the IEP team has found the transportation to be a related service. And oftentimes when a student decides to go to a choice school, we will say, if that is your choice, we have the related service available at the zone school where we have the transportation. I mean, and then different scenarios can come up in other contexts too, where that team is trying to communicate, if you choose to do this, you don't necessarily get that transportation. But simply having an IEP does not mean that you get transportation wherever you want to go. It is driven by that finding by the team that transportation is a necessary related service, which depends on the specific needs of the student. I feel like I've added more confusion than I did, and that's why people generally people like to just say the broad term, but that's not really the case. So we need to make sure parents and all our staff understand that.
These plans are recreated how often?
At least once a year, but you can have an IEP meeting anytime when you request one, and their amendments happen all the time, but it's required to happen, once a year.
Tell me, what could warrant a change in a bus ride or transportation being required from one year to the next? Out of example,
Yeah, so what often happens is the team may grant someone status as a related service as an act of hospitality and not really on the standards that apply to determine whether it's related service. So sometimes the team could look at that with fresh eyes and say, is this really a scenario where it is a necessary related service based on the disability, what's particularly needed to be able to be transported? Or did we simply want to make the family members or someone happy and say, yes, we'll give it to you, or it's an offer? So it's something that we've been managing to make sure we follow that process to really look at, is transportation something you actually need based on the disability, and not simply something that comes up in the IEP and says, hey, do you want transportation? That's not the way it's supposed to happen, but sometimes it does happen that way. And the student could also be manifesting their disabilities or in different ways. They could be making progress in ways where it's no longer required to have that transportation. So that could happen as well.
Can you see how confusing that could be, or how much of a slippery slope that could be?
Absolutely.
If you give me the courtesy one year and then you take it the next year, we need to make sure that we're being legit across the board, and that we're going to continue that practice, because when people make their standards a certain thing, we should be willing to follow it.
Absolutely. It's very important that we're uniform in that approach and that the standard is followed across. I mean, and I think lots of times in the context of special education, you say, well, look at the particular student. We don't want to say that general rules and standards apply, but we do have a lens for looking through transportation that is official and should be followed in every instance.
Agreed. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. I will now make sure. Oh, I'm sorry. The last thing we're going to have today, Dr. Howard Hall wasn't able to be here earlier, and I did want her to do her board minute because I was reporting on a conference unit.
I think I'll be short. I'll try. Thank you for the opportunity. I had the opportunity to attend a conference, Center for Strong Public Schools in Atlanta on October 8th, 3rd through 5th. And the Center for Strong Public Schools is actually a vanguard to protect public schools. And so I'd just like to draw attention to two critical areas that I thought was important. And those were number one, the evolving financial landscape facing educational institutions and the strategic importance, and also comprehensive literacy policies. I thought those two were very important. So the 5 financial challenges, number one, and I mentioned this a couple of times in different settings, but it's the widespread uncertainty regarding the future of federal funding streams. And they broke it down to it, for example, SNAP benefits. Starting in 2028, states will need to decide whether to absorb the 5 to 15% in costs that federal funds previously covered or pull back on their programs. And this is nationwide, it's just not locally. And also, I'd like to go back to and say this, that this was an exclusive conference. It was about 40 of us, and the speakers and the school board members represented several states. Those states were Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, New York, Mississippi, Washington, D.C., Virginia, North Carolina, and Colorado. So next, Medicaid. It stated that starting in 2026, states will need to make similar choices, backfiling federal funding gaps. And what was really startling is this. Starting the tax year of 2027, some estimates show that public school systems could lose over $6 billion. Number two, financial concern. Declining or reallocated state and local revenues, and that's pretty much what's explained in number one. Number three, enrollment declines. We heard Ms. Page speak of this. Larry Jackson spoke of this about the enrollment declines. And post-pandemic data revealed that a substantial national exodus of approximately 1.2 million students from public schools. And we don't know where those students are. And that's nationwide. We lost about 1.2 million students. Another concern is locally, inner city schools are also experiencing enrollment decreases due to gentrification trends. And we see that in Savannah. We have inner city schools that are half empty, which makes the facilities are underutilized, and it reduces the per pupil funding. Now, the question was why enrollment is declining. They gave us 4 reasons why it's declining. Number one, fall in birth rates. Number 2, the rise in school choice, and that can extend to private schools or homeschooling. 3, migration and urban flight. And 4, immigration policy. Number 4, escalating operational costs, and we do know that districts are grappling with the rising costs that's associated with facility maintenance, material acquisitions, and overall operational expenses. And finally, 5, expanding student needs. Currently, we are observing a significant increase in student learning gaps alongside with requirements for social emotional development and mental health services. And the next thing that I thought was important was the importance of a robust literacy policy. And at the conference, they made sure that they explained to us that they underscored the fundamental principle that literacy is not merely an educational goal, but it's a human right and it's a civil right. And you hear Dr. Watts often talk about it as being the North Star. So in the Atlanta public school system, they have already recognized this by successfully implementing a comprehensive literacy policy. Other districts are interested as well, and therefore, a few weeks ago, I actually submitted a proposal that we began to implement a literacy policy. And this policy should align with HB 538, which is the Initiative Early Learning Literacy Act. We already have one statewide. It's mandatory to implement the science of reading. So using that policy, our school district can have a literacy policy. And this policy would be instrumental for several reasons. One reason is that it will benefit our current administration, which is the superintendent, staff, faculty, parents. But in the future, if we have future leadership, we have another superintendent, we have a brand-new school board, we will still have a policy in place that would have consistency that for us to have in order to have an effective approach to literacy education. And there were so many other topics discussed, but I just honed in on those two particular topics.
Thank you very much. That's fantastic. Okay. I will now accept a motion to go into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session for the discussion of security, safety, legal matters, real estate, personnel.
I second.
Okay.
and other stuff.
All in favor? Thank you.